Great, thanks. Well, welcome all. My name is Garth Heid. I'm with Advancing Opportunities, Assistive Technology Services Program. And today I'm going to talk about living and aging in place and supporting individuals and their carers. We'll again chat away and I'll see if I can respond as we go along here. And what I do currently is, and have been for many, many, many years, is visiting families in their homes for funders and to evaluate the situation, the living situation, the individual, their goals, and what can be accomplished to improve accessibility, their independence, safety, and of course, the caregiver's experience and the caregiver's life. Very, very important for all. Most of the situations that we deal with here have to do with the supports program, Medicaid waiver programs. We also do evaluations for DVR. Why aren't I scrolling through for DVR and other funders. DVR, of course, if it is community vocational in nature, and New Jersey DVR considers if a person needs to be able to get to work and prepare, and they have a modified vehicle, but their house is not accessible, we do evaluations for them. Traumatic brain injury fund, and again, the DDD population here in New Jersey. Now, what is assistive technology? In my world, it's accessibility and mobility. In New Jersey, the Division of Developmental Disabilities requires an assistive technology evaluation for anyone who is requesting an environmental modification and to use their Medicaid waiver funding for that. As part of that, and as also in schools and some voc rehab, as well as the Traumatic Brain Injury Fund, we also do augmentative communication evaluations, which to me is one of the special forms of assistive technology. Independence in daily living, of course. And job accommodations. Now my slides are going real slow here. So we'll talk about accessibility, and probably the most common symbol of accessibility is the wheelchair and the ramp. And we get a lot of requests for family needs ramp. As an evaluator, we need to look at the environment. We need to look at the problem. We need to look at what are the issues that the individual is dealing with. Just because the request says I need a ramp doesn't mean it's recommendable. We look at the entry of the dwelling, and here the next few slides is the good, which is here's a beautiful dwelling that has a virtually zero rise entry with a nice long sloping ramp that goes up to a zero rise entry at the doorway. Quite beautiful. And as you can see, it is a nice, slowly sloping ramp. It doesn't look like a ramp, which is very important to many people. Not sure why I'm not moving along here. The bad. And here are a couple of examples of some serious situations where retrofitting a house for someone who either has aged to a point where they can't be lifted anymore, or their situation has changed, their condition has progressed, and they're living in a house that in this case is 7 or 8 steps above ground level. And as you can see, we have a quote unquote ramp. And all ramps are not created equal. And to me, this is not a ramp. This is a skateboard ramp, if you will. Might be fun for skateboarding, but it is not fun for helping a person up in a wheelchair. I see these on a regular basis. And the ugly. Now this is interesting because this is a good ramp actually, but you see the ramp before you see the house. And this ramp is probably the right run and rise, and it has good wide ramp runs, good landings, and it is extremely prominent in the front of the house. So I don't mean to imply that it's ugly, but it is prominent, and many folks. Now this situation here is probably the only thing that they could do, but this is a rise that's probably 6 or 7, 8, or 6, 7, or 8 feet above ground, and that means it needs a ramp of many feet. So this is a common area of concern. We do have examples of bungalows or small houses here that are many inches off the ground. And the slide on the upper right is a proper ramp on a house similar to the left that does not have a ramp. And that is an illustration of what's needed. We get a lot of requests where folks say, I just want a portable ramp. And the lower right-hand corner is a picture of a portable ramp. And I'll get to that in a minute, because one of the common recommendations we can make, and that is relatively readily achievable, is what's called the modular ramp system, not to be confused with a portable ramp. Modular ramp systems usually are metal, most often are metal, and are not to be confused with portable ramps. They can be temporary or semi-permanent installations with railings, no footings. They're modular, meaning they can be assembled on site from standard size components. They can be rented and they can be easily removed, and they're generally are a low cost in custom wood or concrete. But that I have generally low cost in quotations. The cost of concrete and wood can change, so can metal. And again, it all depends on the total rise. When we talk about ramps, does this person need a ramp? Now, this is a gentleman who's using a walker, and he may want to continue walking. And we get talk to a lot of folks who say they don't want to lose the ability to walk. They want to continue doing it no matter how difficult it may be. A ramp is the one great big ugly one. If the person is walking, that's a lot of walking they have to do. For a wheelchair, it's not as strenuous. Now, oftentimes we may recommend what's called long tread, low riser steps for someone who is using a walker and can still take a few steps. Long tread, low riser steps have, as the name implies, lower risers and deeper treads. The benefits of this has to do with not having to lift your legs as high, and the treads are extra long, provide a good rest area, and also is big enough for a walker. Believe it or not, this could be more efficient than using a ramp for a given rise, which may make the person walk even further distances. And then I mentioned earlier portable ramps, and what about portable ramps? They're often misunderstood. Some folks are concerned that if they have an aluminum portable ramp in front of their house, it will be stolen if it's not brought in every night, or at least not changed. They are heavy. Standard lengths are 5, 8, and 10 feet, but they can easily be misused. And many of the manufacturers of these will put some caveats in their literature saying, this 6-foot ramp should be used only for one step. And here we have various illustrations of portable ramps. The best illustration for the best application for a portable ramp is the one in the upper middle, which is just one step and one 4 or 5 foot long portable ramp. The portability is also in the eyes of the deployer, of the person who's putting it down. And when I do evaluations and someone would like to consider a portable ramp so that they can carry around to other locations, I will bring one for them to try. And usually I will bring an aluminum folding ramp. And they can weigh as much as 45 to 50 pounds. And so the portability will be whether that individual who is the carer is going to be able to lift and carry and deploy the ramp. And the math of ramp, the rule we typically use is for every inch of rise, we have a foot of ramp, 1 foot long for every inch of rise, and that's 1 in 12. And this nice little illustration here shows what what that can look like. 120 is ideal. ADA talks about that. I do want to add that in private residence, we do need to look at what is the most reasonable to accommodate what is needed in this private residence. ADA guidelines are very, very important, but most private residences are exempt from ADA requirements. However, local building codes may require it. Portable ramps are rarely safe on more than 3 steps if you can't meet this close or come close to the 1 in 12 rule. Homes with more than 5 steps typically are challenged to ramp. And that was in the first illustration that I showed you. Vertical platform lift is another alternative to ramping. And when we get into the 48 to 52 up to the 60-inch rises above the ground, I will always talk about a vertical platform lift for the family, even in other situations when even if there's only 2 or 3 steps, but there is not a lot of room to put a ramp. It's a good alternative to a ramp when a ramp won't fit. Can be a straightforward installation in many instances. And there are many models available for interior and exterior installation. They do require maintenance, and that's a concern that a lot of people have. Here's a good example of a vertical platform lift. There's already a nice porch. There's already a concrete landing. And this is a standard vertical platform lift with probably a 36 by 48 inch platform. They're for relatively low rise applications, although we've seen them installed upwards of 12 to 13 feet. In New Jersey, a vertical platform lift cannot go more than 13 feet without it being considered an elevator and having to meet elevator requirements. Can be used for exterior and interior applications. Relative low cost as compared to an elevator, and sometimes can be equal to cost or maybe less than a ramp, depending on the situation. And we do recommend them as an alternative to ramping. Stairlifts is another alternative, and they're relatively low cost, almost always residential. Don't often work well in an apartment complex where common stairways, unless it's understood that it's going to be used only by that individual resident. Can be installed on straight run, curved, and multi-landing stairwells. Requires the ability to transfer on and off of the lift's feet. That's very important. Requires clearance at top and bottom of stairs, and is becoming a low-cost option for many individuals. Stair lifts were designed originally to prevent falls for the elderly, for older folks, but we're seeing them as an accommodation for younger folks, where the carers will help them on and off the seat, and will reduce the risk of falling for both the carer and the individual as they are climbing and descending stairs. There are models for exterior installations as well. What if a stair lift? What if a ramp? What if a vertical platform lift is not indicated or is not possible? and there are many situations that we experience where that is the case. One alternative is to relocate, which not a lot of folks are willing to accept easily. And so the alternative would be the area of stair climbers, often also considered evacuation chairs. But there is products include the lift car, which is distributed by American Ramp Systems as an alternative, and the Scalamobile. And these basically are considered when all other options have been ruled out. It requires a dealer demonstration to assess the carer's ability to use it. That's very important. So even if I suggest it in a report, say this may be an alternative, the family will need to receive a demonstration from a vendor, from a dealer, who will come out and try the various products. In this case, if you look at the upper left hand side, you have two products, basically the same product. It's lift car. The one on the extreme left requires the individual to be transferred, and it has the seat integrated. The next slide to the right of that shows the wheelchair. That's a different configuration where it'll actually attach and detach to and from a wheelchair so that the person does not need to be transferred. During the demonstration, the dealer will determine does the carer have the physical capability of actually using this up and down stairs, and which configuration will work. If the carer is older or elderly, unless they're extremely physically fit, it may not be a good match. And of course, the dealer will assess the conditions of the stairs to affirm that the run and rise and the structural integrity will support a stair climber's use. Stair climber meaning the device. The combined weight of the user, climber, and carer operator must also be taken into account. Moving inside to the house, typical requests are widening doorways. Many situations where an individual, is aging in place. As they get older, their equipment and they get older and larger and heavier. Their equipment will grow with them, hopefully. However, the environment doesn't always grow with them. Here we have a picture of a 30-inch door as opposed to a 36-inch door. 36 inches is a typical clearance requirement for ADA, for general accessibility routes or clearances. Doorways can be a little narrower, but that'll depend on the approach to and from the doorway as well. And alternatives to widening doorway, and there are many. One might be to, if the person is not wheeling themselves, but they have hand rims on the wheelchair, and I see this quite often, they're being pushed by others, but they still have hand rims. If you take the hand rims off, the chair is now narrower, sometimes by almost 2 inches. Creating a wider, clear opening without doing a lot of major construction to a doorway is also possible using offset or swing clear type hinges. And this illustrates the picture in the middle illustrates what an offset hinge does. It allows the door to open wider in the doorway, and that, believe it or not, gives you sometimes almost as much as 2 inches. So maybe that'll mean you don't have to take those hand rims off if the person is self-propelling. Bidirectional doors is another option. You just swing through. We often, doing bathroom modification evaluations, entrance and egress, doorways are a very important part of that. And there are many ways to deal with doorway openings. One of the problems with small bathrooms is that you have a door that swings into a small bathroom. And if the door, many older houses, the doors are only 24 inches, and that is to enable, to reduce the amount of swept area of the door inside the small space. But that's typical walker is, most walkers are typically 24 inches wide. Many wheelchairs are rarely narrower than that. recommending a pocket door is a good idea if a new wall is being built or a new bathroom is being built with a new wall, and you can frame it in accordingly to install a pocket door. Installing a pocket door in a doorway that currently has a swing door is quite complicated. An alternative to that, of course, is the barn door. I don't know if you can see my pointer, but there it is. The barn door is in the upper right-hand side, and it enables you to have the clear opening necessary, and the door actually swings out of the way. And these are very easy to retrofit, provided there's space to hang it to either side of the opening. Those are the barns type doors. Another option that I include, even if it's not considered in the initial request, is powered door openers for individuals who want independence. If they have a good ramp or they're getting a new ramp to give them more independence, make it easier, then or making it possible, installing an automatic door or powered door opening system is a relatively easy thing to suggest, to recommend, and relatively low cost. Another option, before I get a little more into automatic door openers, is the relocation of door opening. And sometimes that is necessary if a door opening into a bathroom or a bedroom is in a very narrow hallway, but it is possible to relocate that to the end of a hallway so that you can go straight in through the door and not have to make one or two 90-degree turns. Residential power door opening systems. And again, I emphasize residential there because commercial door openers are much more expensive and can be used with all types of doors. In residential situations, most of the applications are going to be for swing doors. Some folks would like to power a sliding glass door on a patio. That's a bit difficult to do. I have gone so far as to recommend replacing the slider with a swing door so that you can put a power door opener on it. There is a company called Gentleman Door Opener that actually can install actuators on a sliding door. Sliding doors inherently are not wheelchair accessible because they have a slide rail at the bottom rails of the door, which are very difficult to ramp. Residential power door openers, Open Sesame is an example, can power virtually any swing door, can be secure when installed on exterior doors, and offers a variety of activation options. Open Sesame is, recently they announced that they have the options for using Alexa to open your door as well. And that, again, very powerful system, and they really are a company that are designed for residential door openers for folks with disabilities. Come on. So bathrooms, we touched on them a little bit. We'll talk a little bit more. The bathroom is not the place where most falls occur. However, it is, along with the kitchen, the place where the most injuries occur. Hard surfaces and small spaces make bathrooms especially hazardous. And many of the evaluations that we do, the individual is maybe ambulatory, living in the house they've lived in a long time, and their carer might be in their 80s. And they get to a point where they just can't do it anymore. And so you look at what needs to be done in order to make the bathroom a safer place. I often say that in bathrooms, space is the final frontier. Even if the person is not using a wheelchair, their ability to move around with another caregiver in the room is a factor. Sometimes equipment can be good for making major modifications, for moving walls and changing tubs to showers, and we'll get into that a little bit. Such as the Tub Buddy or transfer devices. These oftentimes folks will come to on their own, and it works well for them and enables them to transfer the individual into a rolling shower chair that then is mated with a frame that enables them to slide them into the tub. I don't often recommend these, but they do require a fair amount of space within the room as well. Usually a accommodation that we see folks make on their own, because these tub shower seats are readily available, even in secondhand stores. We see them all the time, and they are low cost. You can buy them in Walmart. You can buy them probably in Lowe's and Home Depot, and they do make a difference if the individual needs to be able to sit down in the shower. Also transfer boards, shower boards, and I often will recommend, when we're recommending a roll-in shower conversion, to remove a tub, and that is to remove the transfer process from the bathroom space and do it in another room and help the individual into the bathroom and the shower using a good quality rolling shower commode chair as illustrated on the bottom. Those chairs will usually be narrower to fit into narrower spaces because the wheels are small and they sit under the seat, as compared to the illustration of the standard wheelchair with big wheels on the outside, which makes the whole thing much wider. These are easy accommodations to make. A very common recommendation that I make is transfer benches or shower benches that are attached to the wall of a shower, as illustrated in the upper left picture, that can actually fold out of the way. When we're converting a bathtub to a step-in or a roll-in shower, mainly a step-in, you wouldn't necessarily put a bench in a roll-in shower. This can fold out of the way. And one of the other considerations in a bathroom modification evaluation is who else is using the bathroom. Is it being shared with other individuals? And so that's an important consideration to make. A bench, any of the benches that are being used should be portable and should be easily removable and deployable when you need them and don't need them. They do take up space when they're not being used. The nice thing about the fold-up seat mounted on the wall is that again, you can fold it out of the way when not in use. A lot of folks will ask for a custom tiled bathroom, shower with a built-in seat. And I typically don't recommend that unless you're going to make the whole thing much bigger than the standard tub depth, tub width, which is 60 inches. Transfer benches that sit on the edge of the tub with the chair inside and the bench part outside enables transfer in for someone who is partially ambulatory. The BZ board is a great thing as well for assisting someone, a carer and the individual themselves, in transferring from a wheelchair onto a tub bench. Again, I like to, whenever possible, suggest that you remove the transfer process from the bathroom and use a rolling chair with shower. A typical request for safe bathing are the bath lifts. You can help an individual transfer into the tub and then lower them down into the water. Now, many folks do not want to convert to a shower because they do want to have immersion, and they have medical or different reasons for immersing in a tub. This is one way to enable the transfer, where you can actually transfer the person from their chair into the tubs, into the bath lift, and it lowers them down into it. There's an illustration on the upper right-hand side. The pros is that they help the individual get in and out of the tub without having to actually do anything. They just sit on it, and it lowers them and lifts them out. Typically, they're hydraulic and can be battery powered. The cons are that they take up at least 3 inches from the bottom of the tub and sit the user further forward than they would otherwise. So it's going to be a little tight, and it would be usually for a smaller individual, and again, who really needs to have a bath as opposed to a shower. Accessible tubs is a popular request. I'm avoiding the term of the walk-in tub, but we'll get to that. Some folks ask, instead of converting their bathtub to a step-in shower, Is it possible to cut the side out of the tub and make it lower so that they can step in? There are contractors that do this, but I typically don't recommend it. The walk-in tub, coming up, is a common request, and some folks use them. They are considered, you see them on television, they're considered a great thing by many folks. However, the reality is that they are difficult to install. They typically will be a 30 by 60 inch unit to fit into the space occupied by a standard tub. You need to be able to get them into the bathroom. They may take more hot water than the standard water heater can easily replace. They can be higher than a windowsill if there's already a window in the wall. Installation may require repairs to floors and walls and windows, and maybe even the removal of siding to get them in. The individual, in order to use them, and one of my rules that I often ask people when they say, "Oh, what about one of those walk-in tubs?" And I say, "Well, how is the individual?" And by this time, I may know the answer to this: is the individual doesn't walk, or the individual is having a mobility impairment, and a walk-in tub may be contraindicated because they're hard to get into and out of. You must enter the tub, then close the door. Most of them have very little footroom because they have a built-in seat. Not all models purge the jets. Now, many folks feel that they need to have the Whirlpool option of a walk-in tub. And one of the things you want to be careful about is because you're filling it with water and then you're draining it, the water will not drain out of the jets unless it has a self-purging system. So the water can sit there and turn to bacteria in a very short order if the jets aren't purged. Hot tubs, typically the water stays in them at all times, and it typically is chlorinated. So it's not a good comparison to hot tubs. You cannot open the door and get out of the walk-in tub until it is completely empty. Many people complain that it takes a long time to empty a walk-in tub, but that's because you're sitting there waiting for it to happen. Also, a caregiver cannot reach the feet or opposite side of the body easily because of the height of the tub, and retrieving drop soap can be a challenge. Typical request is simply adding grab bars. Now, we almost always recommend grab bars to be installed, and I usually recommend these adhering to some of the ADA placement suggestions, ADA guideline suggestions for grab bars, that they be solidly installed at a certain height above the ground, above the floor, and most cases be horizontal and in some cases vertical. There are many options for grab bars to fit into the decor of a house, and that should not be a problem for many people. You will see, and I often, even if we're recommending a roll-in shower and the individual is not climbing in and out and they're being rolled in, I often will recommend grab bars for the caregivers, because if they slip, having a grab bar is a good idea. Grab bars in many senses are really designed to help the individual reach for something when they're going down. Folks are not always using them to steady themselves when they're getting in, but are there for them to reach for in case they feel they're slipping. So for caregivers, that's very important. Wall-mounted grab bars can be easily installed, but they need to be installed into studs or in the voids between the walls using special fasteners. On the lower right-hand side, we have the portable grab bar with suction cups. That's only here for discussion, because we do not recommend these. In fact, when I see them in homes, I will tell folks I do not recommend them because you can never be sure they will stay in place when you need to grab for them when you're going down. And then in order to work, they have to be on a smooth surface, and many shower walls are not clean and smooth. Rim-mounted grab bars are a good option for many folks, but they do get in the way for the transfer. Bathing hoists and transfer aids. There are many options. We touched on it earlier with the sliding transfer type. Here is a sliding transfer system for heavier folks. And this is simply a tub bench that actually slides out to one side so you can transfer on and then slide inside and help with your getting your legs over the side. A bath board is a combination transfer aid and bench that straddles the side of a standard tub. The Oxford Mermaid is a actual transfer aid that can be used sometimes next to the shower. I would recommend a larger shower than trying to deal with a small 33-foot square shower than in this case. But this is one option that I typically don't recommend, and I will show what I do recommend often. Just a few examples of accessible sinks. And if an individual is even using a wheelchair or a shower commode chair, to be able to use a sink is very important. You need plenty of open space underneath them. I'm often suggesting to people to remove their vanities. And they don't like that too often, but if the individual needs to be able to get to the sink, or you want them to be able to get to the sink, you need to have plenty of clearance underneath them. Do you always need to have two sinks in a bathroom that has limited space? Removing one of them and installing a wall mount sink is often a good space saving idea. The picture here on the lower left side is a self-rimming sink and a standard vanity. That has good underclearance. The sink illustrated to the right is a height adjustable sink. I typically don't recommend those unless you have two different people who use wheelchairs in the same house and they are at different heights and want to adjust the height of their chair, of their sink. Faucets, again, and when we're talking in a shower situation, we're often recommending the slide bar shower head. Very common recommendation. Enables you to be able to hold the shower head and shower. The sensor faucets I'm recommending a lot. Many new faucets now have rabbit ears or have larger handles. But many times I'm going to recommend the sensor faucet. They're relatively low cost and they enable folks to be able to actually much more easily control their water. And we also sometimes will recommend automated water mixing systems in showers as well. And other options for bathroom safety, non-skid mats, shower, long handle sponge, simple things, foot scrubber. Foot flush is one thing that I've actually seen families use that I haven't recommended. But for an individual where they are able to be independent, but they cannot reach the standard the flusher, there are a couple of options for converting your standard flusher to a foot flush, and that's a great idea. We often will recommend an angled mirror or a movable mirror for independence. Many bath chairs will have suction cups on them to keep them from moving around, and that's a good thing. I'm going to kind of running out of time. I want to cover one area, bedroom accessibility essentials, and grab bars, handholds, lighting, and the arrangement of the bathroom. One of the more common accommodations I'm going to recommend is using a thing called the super pole, which is the top center photo, which is actually a floor to ceiling rail that sometimes is the only thing you can do to give an individual proper leverage to be able to transfer in and out of bed independently or with help. Super poles are a great idea. Sometimes we're even recommending them in the bathroom in order to give a person another place to grab onto if you don't have a wall or a place to install a grab bar nearby. Again, mounts between the floor and the ceiling, and they have many options for transfer bars to be placed on them at any height, and they are adjustable. Other bed accessories are risers to make the bed taller, especially if you're using a lifter. that has to get under the bed. Hospital beds are a common accommodation. It's great if they are height adjustable, so the transfers can be more easily accommodated. Now, I do want to talk about lifting systems because sometimes we can recommend a lifting system that is installed on the ceiling. We will call them ceiling lifts that will make it possible to lift and move an individual around with dignity from the ceiling as opposed to the floor. On the large photo on the upper left here is a standard mobile lifter like a Hoyer, but next to it is a ceiling lift. And we're going to talk about that a little bit because you can install a ceiling lift. We'll do that next slide. Here's one transfer aid, especially for folks who are larger, is sit to stand transfer aid. The person can bear weight, but the carer cannot hold them up. And the easy way, smart sit to stand. Many companies will make a sit to stand transfer aid. As you can see in this photo, the legs must pass under the bed, and in order for it to work. The other issue, as you can imagine, this large piece of apparatus must be stored somewhere nearby, and that is a complaint that many people have. Standard mobile lifter on the right-hand side is what people often call Hoyer lifts. Standard manual Hoyer lift or mobile lifter can be purchased through insurance as long as it doesn't have a motor. But if you want to put a motor on it, you want one with a motor. And many folks, especially as they're getting older, no longer want to be, can use a standard manual hydraulic Hoyer lift. So they're going to want to use a powered one, and insurance won't pay for it. But the waiver programs typically do. Ceiling lift systems we recommend quite often. They can be installed in a variety of configurations, can replace the need to create wheelchair accessibility in tight spaces, and are out of the way when not in use. So they're not taking up floor space, and they're relatively diminutive because all it is a motor attached to a rail that's attached to the ceiling. We recommend these a lot. You can run them throughout the home. You can run them from the bedroom to the bathroom. You can actually install them so instead of making a bathroom wheelchair accessible, you can actually install a ceiling lift system that enables the person to get into and use the bathroom without making changes to the bathroom. And I will do that on occasion when it's not possible to make a bathroom wider, especially if it's already a long and narrow bathroom. When we talk about an ageless home, again, just to reiterate, we want to look at stairless entries. Not having to climb stairs to get in and out of the house would be wonderful, whether you have a disability or not. A gradual outdoor incline up to the entry instead of ramps, as illustrated in the first photo. Low or no thresholds at doorways. 32 to 36 inch wide doorways. 42 inch or wider hallways. Lever style doorknobs. Lever style or sensor faucets. Curbless shower stalls. And these do not create barriers for people who don't need them. And that's the important thing to consider. So if you have someone who needs accommodations, but they're living with someone else, other family members can use these accommodations unless they really want to have a bath. However, some resources on this slide, grab bar specialists, adaptive access regarding the offset hinges or swing clear hinges, American Ramp Systems. Shorthands is a company that makes residential ceiling lift systems, as does Gouldman. Active Forever is the Superpole, Savaria and Mobility Elevator. Savaria is a ceiling lift company as well. Funding is an interesting topic. Most of these accommodations that I talked about are not considered durable medical equipment. So it's always a good idea to seek low-cost solutions first. as I mentioned earlier, vocational rehabilitation, when tied to a vocational goal, has been known in New Jersey to help with environmental modifications in the home. If the person has a vehicle that they drive themselves, but they can't get in and out of the house, that is an important consideration for voc rehab. Human Services Medicaid waiver programs here in New Jersey, it's Division of Developmental Disabilities self-directed budgets. We do lots of evaluations for them. They do have their limits. However, the idea is to enable a person to remain in their home and not have to move or not have to be institutionalized. And that's a large part of what we do. The Catastrophic Illness and Children's Relief Fund here in New Jersey, under 22, folks can use that funding for home modifications, vehicle modifications. And that is different. We don't do evaluations for them. They basically reimburse folks for expenses. Eligible folks, that is. Medicaid Managed Long-Term Services, MLTSS here in New Jersey. And at the bottom is the New Jersey Human Services websites for MLTSS. And if there are any questions, I will take them, but I think we're out of time.
Garth, thanks. That was awesome.
Mike, thank you. I don't see any questions.
I saw a question in the chat came to me directly, but I don't know if you said this before. Are your slides up on that? Are they shared on that Google Doc for your session? No, that's okay. Your face told me no. That's okay.
No, would you like me to do that?
Yeah, or if you send them to me, I can put them up there.
Okay.
Yeah, do that. Just send me the link.
Okay, I'll do that.
And then I'll put them up. So that answers that question. So when we're done with the summit, the recordings as well as all the resources will be back on the schedule page that you guys use to get here. So those links will be replaced with the recording, and we'll have the link to the slides there as well. Awesome.
Okay.
All right. Garth, thank you.
Thank you all.
Thanks, everybody.